Hello, I'm Bruce MacKay, teaching fellow at the Teaching Center at the University of Lethbridge. And with me today is Dr. Harold Jansen, Professor of Political Science. And Harold, we're going to talk about a flipped classroom. What exactly is a flipped classroom?
Well, in traditional models of instruction, what we've always done is the professor, in the really traditional way, would get in front of the classroom and lecture at the students, and then you assign homework and assignments, and then the students go off and work on it and then hand it in and get graded. And so that's sort of the traditional way that classrooms have traditionally been done in elementary, in high school, and certainly at university. So the idea of a flipped classroom is that that's not the best use of the time when professor and students are together. The idea is that often you've been in a situation where somebody's explained something to you, and it's not till you've had to apply it that you realize you don't really understand it, and then you could go back and ask some better questions.
Right. And that usually happens in that homework phase.
And that's exactly it. And the traditional thing, right? You sat and listened, oh, that makes sense, and then you go do the homework and realize at home you don't understand it, and you can't get a hold of the professor to ask the questions you might have. So the idea of flipped classroom is to invert that relationship. And the idea is to deliver what would traditionally be lecture content outside of class through different means. The flipped classroom model that's become very popular is doing it through video. But it could be through readings, there's a variety of ways to do that. And then use the in-class time to work on what would be homework traditionally, or to work on assignments where you apply it. And then in that situation where students are working on things, they can ask the professor questions and get help and address the things they don't understand. So you can use the classroom time for more dynamic back and forth, and things that are one-way delivery. Well, it's a waste of that very precious time when you're all together.
Yeah. So which class have you tried this with?
I tried this with my introductory research methods class in political science. And this is a class that we require of all our students, and it scares them unbelievably because there's math in it. And there's an element of political science that we do numbers, we do statistics, and we want our students to know how to interpret and how to understand those. So what I was finding is the math part, the statistics part was very difficult, and I tried doing a very, very traditional thing where I would lecture about statistics, which sounds about as exciting as it actually was for the students. I feel bad for the students those first few years. And then what I did is I moved to a situation where I would lead the students. We'd go into a computer lab and I'd lead them through a stats program, and we'd go step by step. But what I found is when they were trying to do it on their own, they weren't very good at it. They were very good at following my instructions. So if I was training a bunch of people to follow my demands without question, I was doing a really good job, but they weren't actually learning. So what I did for the stats part is I produced a series of videos. And what the students would have to do every week is watch the video where I'd explain it. I would demo what I would do, and then they'd get into the classroom and here's your work, just go to it.
So essentially capturing what you would normally deliver in some sort of a lecture format. Through video, did you require outside expertise, a studio to set all this up? Or? I
did this using a variety of tools, but in my office. I would sometimes talk to a webcam, but very little. Mostly I would produce a lot of graphics using just tools like Keynote and things like that. And I try to animate as much as possible. And then other things where I'm working on the stats program, I just screen capture what I'm doing. And then I'd go back and re-edit it to add annotations and things. The video took a lot of time. So I was producing a video a week, and the first time I did it, I was spending 15 to 20 hours in video production every week for half of one of my classes. It was a lot of work. That's how I did it. Other people will do it where they'll just talk, or there's a lot of ways to do it, but I wanted to try to do something a little better. I learned a lot about video production.
Okay, so we can ask you about that.
We should ask Todd in the Teaching Center. He's the guy, and that's one thing I didn't do, which is funny, is I've been involved in the Teaching Center for a long time. I just sort of stumbled through and figured a lot of this out, and then I told Todd a little bit later what I was doing. He said, oh, we should have used this program called Camtasia, which I now use, and which, had I gone to the Teaching Center at the beginning, could have saved me a lot of time.
So you did it with this research methods class. Have you applied it to any other classes that you teach?
Right now, no, but I'm designing another class at the moment where I don't know if I'm going to do the full flipped video production. I'm doing a class on digital politics this fall where I want to do a lot more active things in class and do more of the one-way stuff outside of class. A lot of the traditional teaching in humanities and social sciences actually is really a flipped classroom if you think about it. If you think of a seminar, right, you go and read, and then the discussion is really applying the ideas and asking the questions, and so it actually isn't as foreign to what we do.
Right.
The idea of producing videos is, that's a little bit new.
Yeah.
But as far as the way we've done a lot of teaching in humanities and social sciences, it's actually pretty traditional in some ways.
So what kinds of things then would you be doing in class?
Well, in class, what's really funny is the first time I did this, I told the students, I'm not going to be teaching you anything in class. And they didn't quite believe me. And so some of them came in, well, I don't have to watch the video. He's not going to not teach us. No, and I didn't. So they would have to Google stuff. They do that once. A few students do that once and then never again. They realize that. So basically I have assignments in Moodle that they go through, and they have to call up a data set and then work with the data set, applying the techniques that they learned in the video, and then answer questions on there. And I let them work if they want to work with partners, and they sort of collaborate and they go back to working individually. It's very loose. I tell them whatever facilitates your learning. I don't really care what works for you. And then I just go around and help people one-on-one. And what's really great about it is often we find when we try to explain things one way to a student, that doesn't work for every student. And I found I could, if they didn't quite understand the explanation in the video, I could explain things in a little more detail or a different way. And if you get the students who are really struggling, you can spend more time with them. And also the ones who get this really easily, I could show them a few extra things that weren't in the video. So I found I could much more tailor things to individual strengths and weaknesses.
And did you find the students actually learning some from each other as well?
Absolutely, because sometimes, well, I'm dealing with a class of up to 30 students all by myself, so it might be you have to wait 5 to 10 minutes before I can get to you.
Right.
And so sometimes they'll ask the people around them, and the act of explaining something to somebody else really helps you learn. What was really exciting about it by the end, though, is I saw the last assignment students would do their performance. That last assignment was always a source of great pain and sorrow for me, because just to get them to do the bare minimum of what I wanted to do was a challenge. But I actually had to start reining students back. They had become so confident. They were trying to do these very complicated techniques. Wow. And the performance on the exam was about 10% higher than it had been. So I saw very clear evidence that they actually learned better and internalized and understood it. The other advantage of the video for them, what they really like about it, is in class sometimes, I've actually had students, they have their phone with the video on and they're on the computer working on the stats program. And then when they're studying for the exam, they can go back and rewatch part of the video they didn't understand. It worked very well.
Excellent. So are there particular kinds of classes that would work best, do you think, with this flipped approach?
When I first started doing this, there's always that saying, right? Once you've discovered a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And this was my new hammer, and all my classes were looking like nails. But I've found a lot of things where there's a really application focus, this kind of video thing where you're showing people how to do something. Technical kinds of skill things really seem to lend themselves to this. I mean, a lot of the teaching I've done in 3rd and 4th years, the students go off and do the reading. I'm not going to explain the reading in class, and then we see how well they did it. So, I mean, in a sense, that's flipped. But I've kind of resisted the temptation to expand this much further, because I think it really lends itself especially to that more technical kind of teaching.
So now that you have this prepared, this particular class, are you continuing to tweak and make some adjustments to the videos you've already made?
The second time I did a complete re-edit of them and improved them quite a bit. And last year I didn't change any of the videos, but what I like to do is I'm going to change all the assignments coming up, because what they've always done in my classes, we do a big study in political science called the Canada Election Study, and there's a new election coming. I like to have them use fresh, new data. It's kind of exciting, and I try to build assignments that kind of tell stories about things about how Canadians behave politically. So I'm going to redo all the assignments probably next year. So so the video part was a huge investment up front. Like I said, I was spending 20 hours a week, and then probably 5 to 7 hours to edit them the next time. But now they're done, so that's a lot. That's a lot easier. So the investment is big, but it pays off for several years.
That's excellent. Well, it sounds really interesting, and now I'm starting to think myself whether there are any of these my teaching.
I've given you a hammer now.
Yeah, you've given me a hammer. I'm starting to see everything as a nail.
But the video thing, there were times when I was embarking on this. I think it was March the first year, and I thought, why did I ever start doing this? Because I've got to produce another one of these videos. I'd be up till 2 in the morning rendering video. And but
Yeah.
it really paid off. It was the biggest risk and investment, but probably the biggest payoff in my teaching career.
That's fantastic. That's great. Well, thanks very much for sharing this with us. It's very interesting.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you bet.